Hello everyone, welcome to my channel Quotation again. In the last video, we discussed about the primitive data types in Java. Before we proceed with the non-primitive data types or reference data types, let's discuss about the variables in Java. If you have not subscribed to this channel yet, please do me a favor and subscribe to the channel. Now let's begin. So in this section, we are going to discuss about variables, their declaration and their initialization, like how to use variables in Java. So what are variables? You can think of variables as a simple containers or boxes, which is used for storing the values. And as Java is a strongly typed language, so every variable must have a type. And this is the same thing that we studied in the last video, like the data types. So every variable must have a data type. And in the data type, we studied about the primitive data types in the last video. Probably we are going to study about the non-primitive or reference data types later. Okay, so this thing is clear, like the variables can be treated as a simple containers or the boxes. Now, how you declare a variable? We declare a variable by specifying the type of the variable and the name. And what is type? Type is the type of the value that this variable is going to store. Like suppose I want to store a int value. So I'll give probably the name as number, and this can be declared as int number and then a semicolon. So you can think of like you had one container or one box, and now this has a label of int. So now it can store only int values. You cannot put like float value and think that everything will work fine. And this container is now named as number. Now, for the naming conventions of the variable, there are some rules, like it can begin with letter and then a sequence of letter or digits. Now, what is a letter? Letter can be like capital A to Z, small a to Z, or underscore and dollar. So it can begin with underscore as well, and it can begin with dollar as well, but this is not a recommended practice. So whenever you are like creating variables, begin it with letters like A to Z or small a to Z. Don't begin it with the underscore or dollar, although it is permitted. Then length of the name is unlimited. You can name like doesn't matter if it is 50 characters long, 100 character long, anything. And the name cannot have a Java reserved word. What are Java reserved word? There are few specific words that we cannot use, like you cannot use as int, byte, public, static, void, main, these kind of things. You cannot use Java keywords. You cannot use in the variable naming conventions. Now, the fourth important point is about the initialization. You cannot use uninitialized variables. So you have to initialize variables with the default value. And how you are going to initialize those variables? It's the same thing like type, name, and then equal to default value. Like I have here specified my variable int number equal to 2. Now, what does this mean? That this was the our variable number, which can have int values, and now I'm putting this value 2 in this box or in this container. So this is the initialization. Explicit initialization is needed in Java. One more thing that is more like on the standards perspective, like we declare variables close to the usage. This probably I'll explain in practical. It will be more clear. Now, what are the constants? There is one keyword in Java, final, and if you declare the variables with this convention like final type name is equal to value, then this will become as a constant. What does it mean? Like it becomes a constant. Now you cannot change the value of it. Suppose I declare this variable as number as final int number is equal to 2. Now if you want to put 3 in this variable, then it will not be possible. So this means that it has become a constant and its value cannot change. Okay, so this was the theory part of variables. Let's switch to IntelliJ for the practical part. Now let's start with the practical for variables in Java. I'll create a class, say variables. Now as Java is a strongly typed language. We have to give the variable uh, type as well. So every variable has a type. Suppose I just give it as number, then Java will not understand what is this. So for that, you have to give the type. Suppose I give the type as int. Now I've declared a variable named number of type int. Now there's one more thing. You can declare variables on the same line as well of the same type. So this number 2 will also be considered as int number. But this is not a good coding practice, and I'll ask not to do it. So if you have two variables, it's better declare it on different lines. So these two variables got declared. Now what about the naming conventions? Naming convention says that it starts with a letter, underscore or dollar sign, and then it can have any letter or number, and there is no limit of the length of the name of the variable. So it can have any number of digits, and it can start with dollar as well, then also it's fine, or it can start with underscore as well, but then again we don't normally use variable names with dollar which starts with dollar or underscore, but it cannot start with number. So if you give start a variable name with a number, it will give you compilation error. Now the next point that we read was that explicit initialization is needed in Java. Suppose if you want to use this variable, let me use this variable number. It will give me this red line indicating a compilation error. If you try to run this code, it will give you an error because explicit initialization is needed in Java. You have to initialize a variable before that variable can be used. So I give initialize this number, this variable as 0, then you can use this number. But notice one thing, if you don't use a number which is not initialized, Java will not complain. So you're not using this number 2222, then Java is not complaining because not you are not using it. Now there was one more point that I said, that declare variables close to usage. This is also like a good practice. Java will not complain if you declare a variable at line 3 and then use it at 5. But it is good if you can like declare the variable closest to its first usage. So suppose my first usage is at line 6, it's better to declare this at line 5. Now, again, like this is a variable number, and we initialize this with 0, then we printed it. Suppose now I want to change its value. I'll get say as number is equal to 2. So what I'm doing is I'm putting this 2 in that box named number. So what it will print now, like if I say what is the value of this box, it should print 2. Okay, first it prints 0 because you put 0 here, then you put 2 in that box and then ask what its value, then it will print 2. Now, what happen if I change this int number to final? Now, what we read that if you are making a variable as final, it will be treated as a constant, which means its value cannot be changed. So I declare this variable final int number equal to 0, then I'm putting 2 in it. So I'm trying to change its value. Now what will happen? Let's run the code. And then it says cannot assign a value to a final variable number. So this means that this has become a constant. So that's it from the practical part. So this concludes our this section in which we studied about variables, its initialization, its usage, and its declaration. Hope you liked the video. If you like it, please hit the like button, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much. See you in the next video.